Welcome to my wonderful floral workshop, you very, very special people. Now today I am going to be demonstrating how to make a floral buttonhole. Usually men wear it on their suit jacket when they're going to a wedding, or the women can also wear it, but the women's buttonhole is a lot more bigger than the male one. So today I'll be demonstrating how to construct that in very, very simple steps. So what I've got at the back at the moment is my whiteboard, and I'm going to introduce you to the floral contestants that we're going to be working with today and the equipment that we're going to be using. So at the board we've got the tulip, the calla lily that we're going to be using today for the buttonhole, the Vanda orchid as well, sedum and lisianthus. The equipment that we're going to be using today is 20 gauge wire and 24 gauge wire. So I'll be drawing up the chart just shortly after I take all the writing off the whiteboard to demonstrate the thicknesses of the wire. Secateurs, carafilm we're going to be using, and a pearl tip pin, and lastly leaf shine, which is one of my favourite ingredients to use in floristry. Okay, so as you can see here to my left in the bucket, I've got all the floral goodies. We've got the tulip, we've got the calla lily that we're going to be using today, Vanda orchid, sedum, lisianthus, and the foliage that we're going to be using, that I need to put back on the board, is the camellia leaf. And I'm going to be spraying the camellia leaf because as you can see there, it's quite matte finish, and I'm going to be using some leaf shine, which I call lippy, lip gloss, just to bring it up a little bit, just to make it look more presentable. I prefer that look than the matte. So, are you ready to get floral? Because I certainly am. Now this is where all the fun begins. This is the construction part of the floral buttonhole. So as you can see, I've got all my little gadgets ready to go. I've got the parafilm here, and what I'd like to advise you to do before you get started is just snap about 10 of them off, because the last thing you want when you're constructing a buttonhole is to stop and start. So this is what I'd like to do, just have my parafilm ready to the side like that. So I won't be using this much anymore, the roll. You definitely need your secateurs to construct this floral buttonhole. And are you ready to begin? Because I certainly am. Okay, so moving forward, I'm going to be using the tulip, as you can see there. So it's on a stem. So that's what a stem looks like with the tulip. And I'm going to be cutting it somewhere around there. So snip. I know that looks really awful, I've just snipped that off, but that's all we need to play with today. So I'll put that aside. Okay, so that's my calla lily. Again, I'll give that a snip. Put that aside. Now with the extra bits that you're snipping off, you know, just so you don't make a mess on your bench area, just group them on your bench, all the things that you're not using anymore. Right here I've got a Vanda orchid, as you can see, and I don't need a lot of that. I just need 2 heads, which I'm going to just snip off the stem like that. So that's fallen off. That looks pretty, I prefer that one there. So look at your Vanda orchid. So if it looks a bit creased, like let's say that one there, that's one that you don't use. So that gets snipped off and thrown away. That's an aging one, so you don't want to use that. And that one is almost there, but not ready enough to use. So this whole stem now you need to discard of it, so we won't be using that. So these 2 heads that I cut earlier are the ones that I'm going to be using in the construction. Okay, so I'll group them together as well. Okay, moving on, I've got some lisianthus here. Look at that beautiful colour there. It's variegated with the white and purple, and I've chosen that colour specifically to marry up with the Vanda orchid, which is also purple. So I'm just going to cut that off there, just like that. And I don't mind that little young Lisianthus, which is still to open. I'll cut that there as well. And I might just cut the last stem off the Lisianthus, because sometimes you cut one off and it's too big to use with the other cut flowers. So my backup will be this one. Okay, so I'll group that with the other two stems of Lisianthus as well. Okay, so I'll put that aside because I won't be using it. Now sedum, as you can see there, it's a cluster of beautiful pink-tipped. They're pretty spiky and velvety at the same time, but very long lasting, very reliable, especially if you are, working in the month of summer where it's really hot, 33 degrees or sometimes even 40 degrees outside, and you want your flowers to stand the heat of the day. So you want to be using flowers that are very reliable and don't disappoint you or the bride or the groom. So I'll just give that a bit of a snip, just like that. I'm going to have about 3 of them, maybe 2 as backup. Okay, now I've got a bit of gum here, some eucalyptus. And I might just give that a snip around there, and I'll put that aside because I'm not going to use it. Now I'm just going to take the bottom 2 leaves off like that, and I'll put that aside as well. So with my sedum, they're grouped, my Lisianthus, they're grouped, and my Vandas are grouped, and my tulip and my calla lily with my gum are individually placed on the bench. Okay, lastly, this is the most important bit. Now this foliage that I'm using here is called a camellia leaf. Now if you don't want to use a camellia leaf, you could use a little gem magnolia leaf, you can use eucalyptus leaf. The choice is yours, but in today's workshop I've decided to use the camellia leaf. So what you do out of how do you select a leaf on a stem like this? Well, you look for the largest leaf in the cluster, so that's going to come off. Make sure you leave the feet on the leaf. Please do not cut it off because you're going to be using that very, very shortly, okay? So that's one leaf. The second leaf then needs to be smaller than the leaf that you first cut off. So I've selected this leaf here, or maybe even this one here because it slants on the side. See the difference between this one on the right and the other one on the left? I'm going to use this one because it's got more, character, and it slants to the right more. So I'll give that a cut, and again, please leave the feet on. So that's leaf number 2. Now with the leaves on the stem that you've got here, I'd give it a nice cut because you can reuse that in other workshops, maybe a front view arrangement or a radial floral arrangement. And foliage is very, very expensive. Believe it or not, it's in most cases more expensive than cut flowers, and the reason why is because it takes twice as long to grow back. So really, really appreciate your foliage. So I'm going to put that aside. Now moving on, we are now ready to construct the floral buttonhole, and I can't wait to show you how easy it is to do so. Now moving on, I promised you the gauge wire chart, and what I've done, I've drawn it up on the board. So as you can see, it starts at 18 gauge wire and it goes all the way to the end to 36 gauge wire. Now 18 gauge wire is the thickest, and 36 gauge wire is the finest. So what happens in between the thickest and the finest is it starts going finer and finer and finer up the chart. So 20 gauge wire is predominantly used for what we're going to be doing today, which is on the camellia leaf. So we're going to be using 20 gauge wire and 24 gauge wire for the flowers, and maybe 22 gauge wire as well. 22 gauge wire is very famous for wiring gerberas, and you get some florists who use 20 gauge wire as well, but the choice is yours. gauge is then married up to the thickness of the stem. So again, the choice is yours, which one feels right to use. Okay, so moving on, I think it's time we start constructing the buttonhole. Okay, so as shared with you earlier, I've cut the camellia leaf off the stem. So that's my large camellia leaf, and that is now the smaller one that I cut secondly on the stem. So you need to get that shape happening. So that's your main one, then the second one comes on top and it sits like that. Now using your thumb, you need to press down at them and make sure the feet are out. I don't want them hidden or cut off. It's a big no-no to cut them off because you're going to use them later to anchor the wire as it's twisting on the feet. So using my 20 gauge wire, which I've got here in the clusters in the rolls, that's what it looks like when you purchase it. I'm going to take one out like so. I'm still holding my leaf. So I'm going to turn my two leaves around and I'm going to then inject the wire into the leaf like that. Can you see what's happening there? And then I'm going to bring it out like that. So what's really happened, if I turn the leaf around, I've gone through one leaf into the next. Okay, can you see what's happened there? Make sure your wire is even on both sides. That's very important. And I'll show you why very, very shortly. So turn it back around. With your thumb, press down to the area on the leaf where there's no wire. So the wire's gone to the other side of the leaf, yeah? Press down and then bring the other two wires on each side of the leaf down. So it goes down to attention. Can you see what's happening there? Now moving forward, you need to then press onto the feet area of the leaf and choose one wire that you're very comfortable with, then the twist. I'm going to use the one here to the left and I'm going to go around the 2 feet and the other wire like so, and 2 times is enough. Can you see what's happened there? See how the wire rests on the feet? It's very important to have the feet and not cut them off on the leaf. So that's now ready, okay? Now I'm going to put my leaf aside. We are going to wire all the flowers and then we're going to move on to the next step, which is parafilming, okay? So with my tulip, look how gorgeous that looks. I'm going to share a tip with you about a tulip. If it's open like that and you really want it to close, I'd put that back into the cool room. Or if you don't have a cool room, at night time, especially when these come out, it's in the cooler months. At night time, just place it outside, and because of the cold temperature, it will then shrivel back up and be not as tight, but tighter than what you're looking at right now. Okay, so for this, because it's a delicate cut flower, I'm going to be using a 24 gauge. Now this wire is not galvanized, it's a silver wire. And I wanted to mix the wires up to show you that there are difference in colour. And look, at the end of the day, it's going to be parafilmed and you're not going to really see it. So I'm just going to use this now 24 gauge wire and I'm going to insert it into the Adam's apple. Can you see that? It's just gone through. I'm going to make sure that the wire on both ends are even. Can you see that? And then I'm going to bring it down to attention and then I'm going to go around the stem twice or even 3 times like that. Now if you want extra security on the stem, just repeat the process but going through the other side of the Adam's apple. Oops. Like so. Again, make sure the wire is even on both sides. Bring it down to attention. And again, with one of the wires, just go around twice. Wouldn't go around 3 times because you've already done that with the other wire. And that now feels really, really tight and secure, very firm, okay? So that's number 2 that we've wired. Now this is the calla lily. Look at that gorgeous flower. Oh, very long lasting, very reliable. It's not gonna, you know, flop on you with heat. Again, I'm using 24 gauge wire. And now this is a little bit different, this technique. I'm going to create a hook. Can you see that? Just created a hook, a bit like a fishing hook, just before you put the bait on it. And that's now going to rest onto the stem. Can you see that? Of the calla lily. Now that hook that I've just created is going to be my platform where I'm going to rest my thumb onto. So it's going to rest like that. And with the longer attachment of the wire, I'm going to go around the little wire that is just the start of the hook, and then I'm going to go around the stem once, twice, 3 times, and I'm done. So that's the calla lily now wired. Now moving on to the eucalyptus, which smells divine. It's one of my favourite foliages to play with when it comes to arranging flowers. I'm going to use a 22 gauge wire for this. I'm just going to mix the gauges around. So this is a galvanized wire. Now what does galvanized mean? It means it won't rust in contact with water. So again, I've created a hook. Can you see that? So let me just repeat that again. So if your wire looks like so, you need to then create a hook at the top like that. Now that's going to be also rested on the stem, like it was resting on the stem of the calla lily. So I'm going to use my thumb in order to secure the stem, going around the little wire as well, once, twice, 3 times, and we have connection. Okay, that's 2. Well, no, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 now that are wired. Now moving on to the lisianthus, as you can see there, again, I'm going to create the wire and I'm going to use 24 gauge for my lisianthus, creating a hook, resting it on the stem, followed with my thumb, then pressing onto the stem, going around the small wire once, twice, 3 times, and that's wired. The not so opened lisianthus, the little baby, I like that. So just a little bit of texture to the buttonhole. Create a hook as well, rest it onto the stem, going around the stem, 1, 2, 3, that's done. Now some sedum. Oh, it's so good. It's when you touch the stem, it's very, very rich with moisture, but very firm. It feels a bit like a succulent. Again, I'm going to create a hook for my attachment onto the stem, and I'm going to go around that 3 times as well. So we're almost there. The last thing, I'll do a backup actually with the sedum. So I'm going to wire 2. I may not need them, but it's always better to wire more than less. Okay, so that's now done. My sedum's done. Now moving on to my Vanda. Now Vanda can be a little bit tricky. As you can see there, the neck is quite short. Can you see that? Very short. And that's what it looks like at the front, and that's what it looks like at the back. So again, what I'm going to do, should I create a wire? No, I'm going to show you another technique. Okay, I'm going to create a hook, but I'm going to feed it through the mouth of the Vanda orchid. So can you see how it's got a little bit of a chin? It's actually talking. Can you see that? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to thread it through the mouth like so. And with that smaller hook, that's going to also go through the mouth as well. Now it's going to come through the other side. Can you see that? It's come through. Now, this is a little bit tricky. Make sure your hands are dry, because if they're wet, this is going to be nearly impossible to do. So I'm just going around the smaller hook and then the neck 3 times like so. So that's now not going anywhere. So I'll just repeat that with the second head of Vanda. Now a tip with Vanda, if you want them to last long, I drown them into water the night before for a minimum. Look, you can do it overnight. The choice is yours, but a minimum of 30 minutes is all you need, because most orchids drink from their heads. So let's do that again for the second time. We're injecting it into the mouth. Oh, I like it when it just goes click, that crisp sound. It just makes me move. Okay, so again, we're going around the stem once, twice, and almost 3 times. So that's now not going anywhere. Can you see that? Now that's how you construct almost a buttonhole. And very shortly, we're going to be parafilming all those little goodies that I've just shared with you of how to wire using different wiring techniques. And we're now going to move into the parafilming stage. Now we're almost there. So this is now the parafilming part. Okay, so remember when I earlier showed you, you need to have at least a minimum of 10 strips on hand. So we've done that earlier, so I've got them all ready. So the first thing I want to parafilm is the camellia leaf. So what you do, notice that it's dark green. Can you see that? Now, by pulling it and making it light green, that's when it becomes more stickier, okay? So I've just pulled it. I'm going to rest my parafilm, light green in colour, at the feet area. Remember how we spoke about the feet? And I'm going to go around like that. So when you go around, you need to pull and go around the wire. So I've just lost it. I'm going to start again. Pull and go around like so. So stretch, pull, whichever word you want to use. So that's done. Moving on to the Lisianthus, I'm going to then attach my parafilm like so. Pull it, becomes light green, and then we're going around the stem like that. Pull, and then rip off. Again, moving now forward onto the tulip. I'm going to rest my parafilm around the Adam's apple area. Notice that it's dark green. As I stretch it or pull it, it becomes light green. And that's then going to wrap around the stem like that. Pull, wrap, pull, wrap. Now I need more parafilm. So I'm just going to get another strip that I've got ready sitting aside. And I'm going to start again from where it's lighter. See how it's darker at the top and then lighter? So you need to start all over again on top of the lighter section. So I'm attaching the parafilm on like that, stretching it, and then going around the stem like that. Now what parafilm does, it then hides and tucks in all your wiring. So just like that, and then I'm going to rip off my parafilm. Now moving on to the calla lily, one of my favourite cut flowers. I'm going to rest my parafilm on like that at the top, stretch, wrap, stretch, wrap, stretch, wrap. Sounds a bit like an exercise, doesn't it? Workout. Okay, and I'm just going to go over it just one more time because I can still see my wire. So I'm going to attach it again to the stem, pull, wrap, pull, wrap, pull, wrap, pull, wrap. And let me remind you time and time again, when you are parafilming, please make sure that your hands are dry. So my calla lily now has been wired. Moving on to the sedum. Again, same technique, you rest it, make sure that your wire is now covered with your parafilm. Again, it's dark green. When you pull it or stretch it, it becomes light green, and that's what you start then wrapping your stem with. Don't wrap your stem with dark green parafilm, okay? So that's now been parafilmed. Now, like I said to you, I might be parafilming 2 same cut flowers at a time, and it's best to have more than less, I think, because you don't want to, oh my God, I need one more, and then start all over again, cutting it off the stem, wiring it, and then, you know, parafilming it. Like, you want to keep consistent in the whole workshop, yeah? So this is now moving on to the Vanda. So under, so just below the head, you need to cover the whole neck, like so. And we're moving nicely along like so. Now I just want to go over the start point again with parafilm just to make it more firm. Okay, so going around again with the parafilm, and again make sure you pull and then wrap, okay? If you don't pull and you wrap, it's not going to stick. Okay, so that's done. I've got two more to go, actually, no, 3 more to go. So again with the Vanda, we're attaching it just below the head. So make sure again the whole neck is covered. Pull, wrap. Here we go, almost done. Now, did you know the colour purple is a colour used to make you feel high? It gives you a natural high. So for the ladies out there that are going out on their first dates and you want to make sure that the man sitting across the seat from you is intelligent, ask him what his favourite colour is, and if it is purple, then you know it's a winner, because most people who are intelligent, their favourite colour is purple. There you go, another tip for you girls and boys to add to the pot. Okay, now my last cut flower, I mean eucalyptus does flower, but in this case we're just using the foliage, so it's the gum, eucalyptus, whatever you want to call it, is what we are now parafilming. And again, make sure that you're covering your stem. I'm just going to go around it one more time because I just want to make sure that my wire's been covered. Oh my goodness, the last one before we start putting it all together. I can't wait to get to that part. So as you can see it, my very special people, your cut flowers and your foliage has been wired, parafilmed, and make sure you group your flowers before you start putting them together. And this process allows you to identify what to pick up next, and it eliminates breakage as well. So now that we've parafilmed, it is time now to put it together. Now at the beginning of the workshop, remember when I was writing up on the board and I spoke about leaf shine? Well, this is what it looks like. One of my favourite sprays to use in floristry. It can be used on your plants actually, if your plants look like they need a holiday, or this is going to bring them back to life. It's going to put that spring in their step. Now, what I want to use it for today, in today's workshop, is, remember when I was wiring my camellia leaf and I was talking about there's the matte look and then there's the gloss look? Well, this is what the matte look looks like, and if you want it to be glossy, it's this simple. Make sure you're about 10 to 15 centimetres away. So matte, gloss. So just make sure you dry it out like that, like a bit like fanning. And that looks so good, doesn't it? Look how wet it looks, and it'll last like that all day. Okay, now that's not harming the leaf. It's a bit like me saying, if you're going to be using, you know, some red lipstick or pink lipstick, is that going to be affecting your lips? No. If anything, it's enhancing the look of your lips. The same thing with foliage if you're engaging leaf shine with it. So that's what it looks like. Can't wait. Okay, so that is my backdrop, and what I'm going to add to that is the gorgeous calla lily. So they're going to make friends. I'm just going to place that up there like that. Now my hands are a little bit slippery because of the leaf gloss. Now if you are a beginner, I don't encourage you to use leaf shine, because it's going to be really tricky using your parafilm. So stick to the matte look until you're confident to then use Leaf Shine. Okay, so with your parafilm, every time you introduce a friend to another, you need to then attach parafilm onto them so they can then not move and stay together. So that's my colour. And look, your flowers might move around a little bit, and that's what the wire's there for, to then say, hey, nah, no moving. You need to stay in this position, okay? So I'm just going to attach more parafilm at the top, like so. Beautiful. Can you see what's happened there? So that's my calla lily. Next, I'm going to attach some gum. So I might bring that to the side, maybe there, or should I place it there? No, it looks better on that side, see? Have a little bit of a fiddle, you know, like there's no golden rule, you know, your placement should go here or there, you know, whatever looks good, I suppose. So I've just attached my eucalyptus on the side. So now my eucalyptus has made friends with my calla lily. Now moving forward, what else do I want to use? Oh, I've got a little bit of tulip, so I might put the tulip just around that area there. Can you see what's happening? And again, I'm going to attach the parafilm onto the stem of the tulip, attach it to the other stems that have already been parafilmed earlier. Now notice the stems are getting really, really thick. Can you see that area there? It's getting thick. Okay, now I might just add some Lysianthus, and I'm going to thread that from the back. Maybe add it on top like that. I think this is turning out to be a really, really big buttonhole. Maybe for Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he's a big man. He needs a really, really big buttonhole. Make sure you know the size of the person that you're making a buttonhole for, because if you're making it really small and the person is bigger, then it's going to not look complimentary to the host wearing it. So really, really make sure you know who you're making the buttonhole for. Okay, sedum is going to go maybe to the side or maybe to the front there. Might use it just underneath. That's not going to look good there. Maybe to the side there. I like it looking there. That's nice. Okay. Again, attach your parafilm, stretch and wrap. So that's my sedum. And I'm going to attach now some Vanda orchids just under, just there. That looks pretty. I might add. So again, parafilm so it doesn't move. We're almost there, almost finished. Remember that little small little Lysianthus that I wired? So I might just bring that and thread it through the back there. I like that. Just adds a bit of character. And again, we need to parafilm that wire onto the others. And my last Vanda orchid is going to go down the bottom at the base there, just right next to its brother or sister. Can you see that? And I'm going to, again, attach some parafilm, pull and wrap. How exciting. Now, if you lose it, start again and keep on going around. Now, I just need one more strip of parafilm, and look at that. Now see what the wire does? It allows me to move the head around without breaking it. So I might bring them closer together like that. Now the last thing to do is see that really long tail that this buttonhole's got. We need to give that a haircut using your secateurs. Oops. And because now that's become very exposed and it feels like it can scratch you easily, we need to then parafilm that as well, because we don't want that scratching against any beautiful suit or dress that the person's wearing. So make sure that that area that's exposed is now parafilmed, so we don't have any damage on linen. So that's now been all parafilmed, and the last thing to do is you need to turn it around, and remember the pearl tip pin that I was talking about? Well, that then attaches at the back like that, and that's how the pin is then held, like that, you beautiful people. And that's what a floral buttonhole looks like. Now, I might wear that just to show you how it's then attached. So I'm just going to attach it to my apron like that, and using my pearl pin tipped pin, it's going to go in from the back like so. Almost got it. Yep, I got it. That feels right. How good does that look? A floral buttonhole, just under 15 minutes. I encourage you to look into it. Thank you for joining me.